Greetings, and it's time for a baby game. We love baby games on this channel. Well, no, not really. Not really. But I found this game looked interesting, so I checked it out. Also, there is unfortunately no C4 in this game, even though it would be really funny if this game somehow ended up being like a Happy Tree Friends deal or something. No, it's just a generic, adorable game, you know, that's all it is. It's literally in the title, Adorable Adventures. Let's start off, as always, with the price. And we have a bit of a yikes because this game is 20 bucks. Is it worth it 20 bucks to buy this game? Well, I would argue wait for a bit of a sale because most of this game's runtime is going to be a sort of achievement hunt. If you're really a fan of sniffing plants in this game and get all the achievos for doing all of the puzzles, you might get more playtime out of this, but I see this game in a similar way to something like Stray, although Adorable Adventures arguably has much less involved gameplay than Stray. But the story is about 3 hours max to finish the game. If you want to go for every achievement, that is obviously longer, but that is all optional stuff outside of just doing the main objective. And it also isn't the most involved gameplay. It is still gameplay, but it's kind of just doing random little activities that give you an achievement when you finish them. I would argue at a point of $15 to $10, euros, whatever your regional equivalent is, that is when the game is a little bit more realistic. So I guess buy it when it's on sale. Performance-wise, the game is fine. It runs on Unreal Engine 5, as you undoubtedly have recognized by now, and it at least doesn't have huge performance issues. Your mileage may vary depending on your rig, and since we're talking about Unreal Engine 5, your mileage and performance may vary in a general because we know how Unreal Engine is sometimes. There isn't much going on in the Steam discussions around this game, but I would still argue you should take a look over there and maybe take a look at some of the reviews and discussions to see if someone with a similar hardware setup to you has issues playing the game. Again, Unreal Engine 5 can be really fickle and heavily impacts performance on certain rigs. This Unreal Engine 5 game at least works kind of within a limited range. It doesn't render gigantic areas, so I would assume that it runs just overall better than other Unreal Engine 5 travesties that we have seen so far. Gothic is an example for oh god. But yeah, the fact that this game is smaller, localized to a specific area, that means it should run better, but again, I did not experience any issues, but you should try and get at least maybe some input from the general discussions on the Steam forum, or maybe there's some reviews that have played the game with a similar hardware setup that you have. Settings menus are as expected, very minimal. There's all your generic options, nothing too surprising. That also means that the devs haven't done anything stupid that cannot be turned off. So there isn't any annoying setting in the game that's present that you can't eliminate. But it also means that there isn't anything specific going on. I usually take a look and see if any dev has motion blur turned off by default. That is some sort of vibe check I do on games nowadays and see if the developers actually know what players want. Needless to say, that was not the case here, but you know, this is basically all of the interesting things in the settings menu. There isn't anything too mind-blowing present here. Now we can switch over to the gameplay, and well, I will say it's very light gameplay. There's still more gameplay than in 007 First Light, but it's also very minimalistic. You essentially control this boar, and there's lots of inertia and physicality to it. You can literally drift the pig. There's a little bit of interactability depending on how fast or slow you climb stuff. All of the climbing is just automatically. You know, when you jump at something, you just automatically pull yourself up. Kind of like Stray. There isn't any big skill expression in the game. Well, you can do some races, and they have times that you beat. And since there is a certain level of physics to the inertia and the acceleration of the pig when you're running, I guess there's like a mechanic to it. So that is where you could have some skill expression, but most of the game just kind of revolves around the very basic puzzles and interactions. You just kind of walk up to stuff, press a button on it, you get some information, some narration. The basic premise of the game is you are about to free your mom from a shed. No idea how she's got stuck in there, but for that you need all of your siblings. You search for each and every sibling using your scent, and you do that while trying to not get distracted by other scents, which happens. That's the idea of the game. You're basically running around everywhere getting distracted by smells. The basic logic is you kind of arrive in an area, You have to sniff out a whole bunch of things until you're acquainted with a specific scent, so you can ignore it and actually smell out your siblings and find where they're hiding. There's nothing difficult present in this game. It's a baby game. There isn't any actual riddles here. It's kind of just nice and wholesome, kind of running around, doing generic stuff. There isn't anything egregious present in the game. It's just kind of exactly what you expect from a game with a title like this. In addition to your main objective, you can take all sorts of pictures with the wildlife cameras that you can rearrange, and those give you achievements. There's some very basic puzzles where you can kind of arrange something in a formation, and that gives you an achievement. There's essentially activities in the game that you can do, but they're totally optional. This is unrelated to the main story and you don't have to do them at all, which is honestly kind of cool because I don't really care about collecting every single item that you can sniff out in the game. All of the game is narrated by a person making comments on the various things you do in the game, on the various interactions. It's implied that it is a character present in the game, and yeah, that's how the game tells its story, through like voiced narration. Does the game have some weird environmental message or something else? Is there something woke going on in the game? Well, it's ridiculous to say this, but yeah, there is a very generic environmental message in there. You can pick up trash and put it in the trash bin, and then you get the positive comment about it. Also, there's been a forest fire, so there is like very generic commentary on some of these issues, but nothing I would argue is in any way subversive or something you should really take into account when reviewing this game. It is kind of the most trivial thing you can think of. It's like, don't burn the trees, throw the trash away, don't litter everywhere. Those are the kinds of messages. It's nothing that's really all too political. I mean, if you get upset at that, then we need to have a little bit of a talk about kind of overreacting to certain things. Even if it's something you can just acknowledge, and if you don't like it, make fun of it and move past it. I don't know why you would make fun at these two generic statements of maybe don't cause a forest fire and put the trash away. That's really not something that is in any way, shape or form subversive or woke, but there's all sorts of people out there. That shouldn't impact the enjoyment of the game at all. Adorable Adventures is just literally what it says in the title of the game. It's a game about little boars trying to get their family back together. In about 2 to 3 hours of playtime, there is some hijinks that ensues. There's nothing too special about it, but it's also not doing anything egregious. It's a little bit expensive for what it is, but yeah, it's kind of a totally harmless, uneventful, fun game, and it doesn't want to be more than that. You know, sometimes you can just appreciate a simplistic game, and again, it has more engaging gameplay than in some of the blockbuster AAA games at least, and it doesn't want to be anything special. Yeah, that's about it. It's just a very simple, short game I wanted to highlight, since I'm pretty sure this will just absolutely get buried and forgotten about it in some time, so at least I wanted to do my due diligence and talk about this. Maybe get it during a discount. It's like a 3 to 4 hours of totally inoffensive gameplay. That's it. See you next time.